Welcome to the Hong Kong On Screen podcast, brought to you by Hong Kong On Screen, a Los Angeles-based non-profit organization promoting films and culture of Hong Kong.
Welcome to Hong Kong On Screen podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest from Hong Kong cinema. We have invited Anthony Chue. He is a famous film composer from Hong Kong cinema. So originated from Vancouver, Anthony is best known for his music scores for movies such as Divergence, directed by Sammi Cheng, Chen Mok-sing, All About Love, directed by Ann Hui, and the Storm series, including the Z Storm, S Storm, L Storm, P Storm, and G Storm, all directed by David Lam, Lam Dat Lo. He majored in music composition at UBC in Vancouver, where he studied composition with Stephen Chatman and Eugene Wilson, and jazz with Fred Stride. And he has also studied with the world-renowned jazz musician John Novello in Los Angeles. His career began in 1996 in Hong Kong, where he started out by orchestrating music for movies such as Jacky Cheung's Mr. Nice Guy, and performing and recording with many of the major pop singers in Hong Kong, including Aaron Kwok, Vivian Chow, Tong, Janice Vidal, Jacky Cheung, Andy Lau, Priscilla Chan, Faye Wong, Sammi Cheng, Coco Lee, many names that we can recognize. And he has also toured with many of them as music director all over mainland China, Taiwan, Japan, Southeast Asia, North America, and the United Kingdom. He is currently dividing his time between Hong Kong and Los Angeles, and he is represented by the Kaufman Agency. Today, we have Anthony to first to jump onto the show and talk about composing for Hong Kong cinema with us. Anthony, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi. So tell us a little bit about, where you come from and how you got into the industry and everything like that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm originally born in Hong Kong, but I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, so I'm from Vancouver. How did I get into? Well, I studied music in university, and after graduation, I moved to Hong Kong, looking for work, I guess. I fell into the film industry. Actually, I wasn't really targeting to do film. I thought I was looking for any type of work, anything to do with music. So yeah, I'm like all stories. I had a friend who knew somebody, and that's how it works in this industry, I guess.
So I know you work on both popular music and jazz music, and even metal music and film, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't really see myself as a jazz musician, but I know a few jazz chords, and I can fake it when it needs to be done. In this industry, you have to be able to deliver what you're requested of.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, recently I did a rap track, my first time.
Wow!
Well, obviously, I didn't rap. Yeah, I didn't rap. It was for a film called Man on the Edge.
Oh,
directed by Wong Ming-sing. And there was a background music that he wanted rap. So of course, he sent me a song by Usher. So I studied it for a day and came up with a drum beat and hired a rapper. And anyway, yeah. So you do what you got to do.
So what instruments do you play?
I play keyboards mainly. I played trombone in high school and university. I don't play it much anymore. But keyboard's my main instrument. I know a little bit of everything else, I guess. That's, as a composer, it's good to be at least semi-familiar with what you're writing for. Yeah.
And when did you start composing?
I was 10 or maybe 11. I would say my first major composition might have been in high school when I wrote for school band and school orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like that your educational background's mostly in music. So what made you interested in film?
I like film music generally because I like how the music and picture merged together to feelings and convey the story to the audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see. So you told us that, you started by just, simply being in Hong Kong, being young, being flexible, and
Yeah.
and just somehow you just like rolled into the industry or something. Okay, so what were some earlier work that you did before you became a full-blown composer? And then like how did this all happen?
Yeah, you know what? Full-blown composer. I'm not even sure I am one right now. I mean, I do other work other than film. I do pop songs. I tour with a lot of artists, singers in Hong Kong. But to answer your question, I would say some of my earliest films that I'm proud of. One would be a Divergence. In Cantonese, it's called Sam Ho, directed by the late Benny Chan. Invisible Target is another one. These are all probably 15 years ago. Yeah, they're both are action thrillers. There was another one I like called All About Love from 12 years ago. This one's not action thriller. It's a love story. But anyway, yeah, these are some of the films I've done that I liked.
I see. So can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about, the industrial practice of film composition? So, compared to Hollywood, for instance, that we know that, the composer would work very closely with the sound editor in the post-production process. So is it the same in Hong Kong industry or is it different?
It's different, similar but different. I've never worked with a music editor. I heard it is common in Hollywood. I'm not sure why. Maybe the scale is smaller in Hong Kong. I'm usually hired when they've nearly finished editing in post-production. Actually, a lot of times I don't even get the call until they need a composer.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they've called 10 other composers and all they all turn down and then they call me. I don't know. I've never asked them.
Wow, interesting. So
am I the last choice? Maybe I don't know.
I'm sure you're not, but you're saying that you suspect the decision is made in a very late stage of the production process.
Yeah, and I get the film movie files. I import it into my composing software and I compose to that. I don't work with a music editor. No.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, so then in this case, do you just work very closely with the editor and the producer, or
No,
how does
I
that
work.
work?
Yeah, I work closely with the film director.
Okay. So how long does it take usually, during post-production before, the first day you start working all the way till the end?
You know, how long does it take to compose the music?
Yeah, to compose, and also were you also there to when they do the mixing and the production and mastering and all that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, recording orchestra as well when they have the budget.
Mm-hmm.
It takes an average of a month to 2 months, 1 to 2 months. But it's all over the map, really. This one last movie I did, they were not in a hurry for it. Actually, I did it last year and it's still not released yet for some reason. Yeah, but they gave me lots of time for that one. On that one, yeah. Yeah, months.
Months.
I would say the minimum would be 1 or 2 months.
I see. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Tight.
invisible process, right? That not many audiences would imagine, the composer just like being, in and out of the studio to, be in charge of the orchestral playing and also the mastering, the mixing, and the post-production process, right?
Yeah.
So what's your style? So today I want to, just really go in depth to talk about the style of your composition. So I want to, talk about them from 3 perspectives: the melodic range, the articulation, and the complexity. And I know you have a fairly distinct style. So let's start with 2005, one of your favorites. So let's start with Divergence. So I remember, Divergence has little dialogue. The film is fairly quiet. So your music is really, really important to play a role to tell the story, because there isn't that much sound to start with.
Yeah. What is my style? I would say my style is mainly orchestral with some electronics. I usually do films that are usually action, crime, thrillers. Divergence was a little bit of that. There's also, there's a few subplots in Divergence. There's the love theme as well. Actually, a lot of times what the composer needs to catch when scoring a film, other than telling the story, I mean, that's that's a must. That's is figuring out and understanding the subplots, because a lot of times there's like 2 or 3 stories kind of within the film, within a story. For example, in Divergence, we have a cop, a lawyer, and an assassin, and they each have their own story. But the cop, whose girlfriend mysteriously disappeared 10 years earlier, so I have a theme for him. The lawyer who feels guilty for defending criminals, so he has a conscience that I have to be able to express using my music. So that's one of the main jobs, I guess, of a film composer. Yeah.
So would you say, for instance, that you're not really into like overtly dramatic type of melodic range, like you're kind of like more subtle or more conservative in terms of like relating these subplots in film?
If I am, I'm not doing that on purpose. Maybe it's just the way I see the film, or the way I hear the music in my head. But interesting that you noticed. Yeah, I don't notice it myself. I guess it takes a kind of an outsider to notice these things. Thank you.
Do you do that in your other types of music as well, in pop music and all that? Is that your personality being more subtle and more nuanced?
Yeah, now that you mention, I do have one music producer, song producer that once said that. He says the way I arrange his pop songs, subtle little things here and there instead of one big musical action.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you are right, I guess.
Very, very un-Hollywood.
Okay. Oh, is that okay?
Really un-Hollywood to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So you talked about the love story scene in Divergence. So for instance, when you're relating the subplot of the romance between the cop, who's the hero of the movie, and the ex-girlfriend who has gone missing. So this kind of like romantic music that you wrote when he's remembering her in the plane scene and in his car. So you use piano, and then the melody is kind of like gentle, and then you use some legato notes which flow into another beautifully, and then like in other like more crime oriented scenes, like when you're yearning for this suspense music at the beginning of the movie, and in some action scenes, then we hear your staccato melodies like seamlessly integrating the dialogue and other Foley sounds like gunshot or like weapon sound and all that. Just so I feel that you're not the type of like more egotistic composer that is just showing himself, but you're really talking to the images. That's really what I like about your work. So
Thanks. Yeah. As a composer, there are many there are moments when you can show off your music, and there are moments when that is not appropriate. And you're right. I mean, when I'm composing music to the film, I have to consider what's happening with in the scenes, like you were saying, Foley, car chase, gunshots. I have to take all that into consideration. Actually, there have been scenes in which I tell the director, I don't think we need music here. We have enough sound going on, right? And it's, I mean, every fight scene is different anyway, and not every fight scene requires music.
Yeah. That's a really expertly move to me. That is that you're not just using your sounds, but you're also using silence, or you're really part of the film, part of the images. So how does that work? Like, do you discuss with the sound designer? Like, do you work first, or do they work first?
Okay.
Or how does
this is interesting. We both work at the same time, and we don't work together. Isn't that weird? I get the film without gunshots, without any sound effects other than the sync sound, what was recorded live. And the sound effects, the sound department, they get the film without the music, of course. And I guess we both guess. We try to guess what the other team's doing. I go ahead and do my part, and I show the director, right? Quite often he comes back and says, we don't need this, Anthony, because we'll have that, and the sound guys will take care of certain elements. Yeah. There's no right or wrong, but I do my best, and also my best at guessing what the sound guys will put in the the film, and they probably do their best to guess and as well, and the director decides. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you. So you said,
Yeah.
it's really important to understand the subplots,
Yeah.
so you kind of, it sounds like you like breaking down the project and when you are actually thinking about your composition. So do you
Yes.
discuss about the subplots with,
Yeah. In my case, the directors, they tell me from the beginning what the film's all about, and there's love, there's a romance subplot, and there's heroic blah 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 blah. Yeah, and also because my Cantonese isn't great, my Chinese isn't great, so they do explain the movie to me clearly. Yeah, in the beginning. Yeah.
your Cantonese not great? It sounds really good.
Well, conversation is fine, but I was not good enough to understand the movie. I can't. Even TV news, I don't understand all of it. But I know that's yeah.
So nowadays, do
Yeah.
they just like verbally discuss this with you, or do you guys use storyboards, or
Yeah.
what are the materials?
Good question. I've never been handed a storyboard before, and they don't bother with the script because I can't read it. Chinese. Yeah, we talk about it. We would discuss it face to face, or it can be Zoom nowadays, I guess. But yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. So how about the orchestral process, the execution of your composition? Like, are you responsible for, recruiting the musicians and creating sounds and all that?
Yeah. I'm as a film composer, you are responsible for the production of the music as well as composing it. So I'm responsible for deciding who to hire, where to record, the budget for it, things like that. Yeah.
And how do you do that in Hong Kong?
I usually quite often record in Beijing. Yeah. It was a smaller ensemble, like a string quartet. We'll record in Hong Kong. Recently, the past two films I've done, I was in Vancouver, and I recorded brass. I think it was 10-piece, 9 or 10-piece brass section in Vancouver, just only because I was in Vancouver. But strings was still recorded in Beijing. Yeah.
So you said it's because you're in Vancouver, so you would do it there. So are there any factors like that influence your decisions?
Yes, a lot of times it's either cost or the style or the ability of the musicians in that certain style. Yeah, all of the above.
So a lot of us are interested in, how the exchange of talents changed through time in Hong Kong, especially after 1997. So did that affect your casting decisions?
Not really. No. There's good musicians everywhere, really. Okay. Speaking of the same film I was talking about, Man on the Edge, the film I composed a rap song to. the same movie. I wanted to record an Irish whistle. It's a less common instrument. I don't think anybody in Hong Kong or Vancouver that I know of.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I found this friend of mine. He lives in Los Angeles. His name is Eric Rigler. He played the Irish whistle in Titanic. Yeah, we've all heard that song.
Wow.
Yeah, so sometimes you go elsewhere to look for the musician you want for your music. Yeah. Yeah.
Is this always done in person, like during the internet age? Is that possible to do everything virtually?
Yeah, it is. I know of composers that record, they might be in Los Angeles or Hong Kong, but they record the orchestra in Prague or Beijing, and they don't have to buy a plane ticket to go there. They just,
Oh, really? Wow,
yeah.
interesting.
Oh, even my last few movies I did, we recorded strings in Beijing. I stayed in Vancouver.
Oh, wow, interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
So what about the complexity of your melody? Like it seems like your preferences are pretty stable. So tell us, like, do you consider your composition, melodically complex or minimalistic? Is there any variation? Like how do you make the decisions for this kind of
Yeah, actually, these artistic descriptions, I don't consciously think of them that way. I just do what I feel is appropriate for the film, for that
Mm-hmm.
particular scene, according to my
Mm-hmm.
own skills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you get. I don't really purposely think, oh, need to have a complex melody or a tone or minimalist, or I don't really consciously think of all those things. I know this doesn't answer your question, but that's my answer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
I would say that I am not particularly a very melodic type of composer. Not that I don't want to, but just the way I am. But again, I mean, people change, composers change, I change. You learn as you do it. And even though I say this, I say I'm not a very melodic type of composer, but I'm probably better at it now than before. Yeah.
so does that matter
Yes,
that
it
you
does. It does, whether I'm melodic or not, because I find that, yeah, I was saying that I usually get hired for action thrillers, more than, for example, a romantic comedy. I would say romantic dramas require strong melodies more than action thrillers. Yeah, so maybe that's why I end up doing more action thrillers than love dramas.
mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm.
even though I feel I did my best with Divergence, and when I like the love theme I composed for it.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. More masculine, more crunchy type of
yeah,
melodies. I see.
yeah.
So yeah, so you mentioned genre that you did less often, such as All About Love from 2010. Would you say it's a comedy, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a
Yeah,
little bit.
so I
Yeah.
hear that, the type of composition that you made was, to highlight the type of humor, a lot of humor
Hmm.
of, lesbians like exploring the sexuality with men and all that. So you have a lot of like crunchy staccato strings like that just
Yeah,
highlight the funny stories, and
yeah.
that's really nice and it's really cute and sweet and all that. And this is an interesting film because our series actually talked a lot about Ann Hui. And Ann Hui's career
Hmm.
really changed so much. And All About Love is one of the kind of like hard to decipher film that didn't really connect with that much of the rest of her career. It's kind of like a
Oh, okay.
standalone
Yeah,
project
right.
type of thing. So how did
Yeah.
you understand that?
Actually, when I first worked with her, I was not familiar with her previous work. I concentrated on that one film. Yeah. I find that I'm with comedy. I'm not really good with comedies. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not a funny person. But yeah, it's harder for me to catch those moments. I guess it depends on the editing as well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
yeah,
in terms of instruments, you said, you use mostly the orchestral music with some electronic music. So how did you come to that decision?
um well, music, traditionally, music is acoustic instruments, strings, brass, piano, and of course the list past what, half a century, um uh yeah, a lot of electronic sounds. And music doesn't have to be the traditional instruments we hear in the Mozart, Beethoven symphonies. Music can be anything really. It could be even a percussion instrument. Could be me tapping, the table, with my hands. I mean, that's percussion. And electronic sounds. Well, it's a huge uh, palette, almost unlimited now, right? There are new sounds created every day, probably. And
Mm-hmm,
and a lot, yeah, these electronic software producers. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you don't limit yourself. You try not to limit yourself to a particular instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So are you back on electronic sounds as well?
Yeah, yeah. I like electronics a lot, and I also like strings and brass a lot. So I mean, yeah, yeah.
So when you are composing, then do you use a lot of digital instruments just on your computer yourself, or how
Yeah,
does that work?
yeah. Even the strings and brass, piano, it's all digital. It's all synthetic, if that's a better word.
Mm-hmm.
And when, because it's easier to, I mean, you press a key or a couple of keys and you have the full orchestra sound right away. And we would record it and show the director. Once it gets approved, and if they have the budget for it, we would record live orchestra, of course.
Okay, so what are some film composers that you love, and what kind of projects that you would want to do if you have your way in doing them?
A few composers that I do like. James Horner. I like his score to Avatar and A Beautiful Mind. I like the way he uses vocals. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I'm not talking pop songs. Just he might have a soprano melody over strings. I like the way he uses harmony. To create wonder. I mean, there's happy, there's sad, there's hopeful, there's all sorts of feelings, and he is very good at wonder. Charlie Clouser is another one I like. He composed the scores to all the Saw movies, Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. I like his main theme. It's very driving. It's mysterious. It's got rhythm. Yeah.
So it sounds like these are still fairly, neutral emotions. Like you said, you're not really interested in comedy as much, but more like the episodic type of emotions, right?
Yeah,
like
or
you said,
epic. Yeah. And I just noticed James Horner and Charlie Clouser are very different, but I like both of them. Yeah.
So let's talk about your pop music. So what kind of other genres that you do, like for non-film work?
Yeah, I do a lot of pop songs arranging. That's coming up with the music tracks for a song. Yeah, I usually do piano, strings, love songs. Yeah, this is not composing the song, of course. This is arranging it. So I come up with the strings, the intro, the music break, the percussion tracks. Again, there's a lot of electronic sounds. I would describe my work here in the pop song genre as maybe love ballad, new age, R&B at times.
Wow.
Depending on the artist and the producer I'm working with their request. But I usually get called for that type of style of songs. Yeah.
And you said you also went on tours with, singers, right?
Yeah, I tour with a couple of artists, singers in Hong Kong. I guess, I've been doing that since the 25 years, yeah.
So are you still doing that?
Yes, other than COVID, yes, yeah.
Oh, wow. So how do these, session and live work affect your film composition? Or do they not affect your composition?
Let me think about that. Do they affect? Maybe they somehow affect each other, but I'm not aware of it. But actually, good question. Because yes, a lot of times I approach a show because I also arrange and compose music for these shows, right? The overture or the medleys or what have you. And I do bring my cinematic musicality to these shows.
Wow, exciting.
Again, it's something I never noticed until you asked me just now. But yeah, I guess they are related.
So do you have a character or personality in pop music as well? Like, do they know that, you would, bring in some sort of like cinematic influence on pop music as well?
They probably do. They've never told me, but yeah.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. And now that you mention this, I do have one music producer friend. We work on songs a lot. He once did say to me that I have a cinematic approach to arranging a pop song.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Can we know?
The producer?
Yeah.
Oh, his name is Shuman Lee, Shuman Lee. Yeah, I work with him a lot. He produces many artists in Hong Kong, and we were once just chatting, casual chatting about other composers, other arrangers, and how he works with other people. And that's the way he described me. That I approach a pop song with cinematic musicality. Not exact words, but yeah, something like that.
With more atmosphere type of
Yeah,
storytelling techniques.
yeah. And of course, yeah, a song is a story as well, right? It's a short 4-minute story.
Right.
So yeah, and
Wow.
of course, yeah, it's similar to composing music for film. I mean, I have to, as a pop song arranger and the songwriter as well, of course, I have to understand the story in the song. I mean, not just the mood, right? I usually ask us what type of sound do you want? What type of song is it? Is it sad? Is it happy? Is it hopeful? Is it whatever it might be? Um, there's a story arc, story to it. Understanding the lyrics is important. Even though I don't really decipher every line and every verse, but the producer would tell me, he would describe what the story, and yeah.
Very interesting. I guess this is an aspect that or fewer film audiences or scholars talk about. It's like how the cinematic work also influences other aspects of popular culture.
Yeah, it's all storytelling, right? Here's a funny story. Years ago, a producer got me to rearrange this pop song. I sent him my first draft, and I did it kind of an R&B groove, and he said, "Oh, it sounds too happy. It's actually a sad song." So he started to describe to me what he wanted and maybe the story in the song. But I told him, this is weird. I said, the melody sounds happy to me, man. But I'll try again. So I gave him a second, maybe there was a third draft, and he's Anthony, it still sounds too happy. I said, okay, you know what? I can't do this. It sounds happy to me. I don't hear the sound, so I can't do this job, man.
So you're just an uplifting guy.
I guess so. Yeah, I just couldn't. Anyway, I tried to play the melody on piano, the tune on the piano, slower, softer. I just couldn't. I just hear it as a happy song. I don't know why.
That's funny.
But this is rare. I mean, I've never, like, I 99.9% of the time I'm able to execute what they request. But weird, that one time I just couldn't hear it the way he heard it. I gave up. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much with us, Anthony, about your experience in Hong Kong film. And we can tell that it's now not just limited to film, because you also work on popular music. So it is a part of a whole popular culture in Hong Kong, not just film that we sometimes don't think about. We sometimes we think film is film and pop music is pop music, but actually the brains behind them, or the shared brains like yours, right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We learned so much in this.
So did I.
Yeah.
I know something about myself.
That's great. Well, thank you. So I hope you enjoy that, and I hope that we will be able to invite some of your friends to share with us other aspects of Hong Kong film music in my other episodes. So bye, everyone.
Right. Thank you. Bye.